This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from Lillipub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Book.
Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 21, Analog ZK, where +1 equals infinity.
Well,
Shall we get into it?
About what?
Shall we get into it?
Yep. Let's go. I can go first since I have a short.
Well, what's the
run.
frame? What are we doing
Oh, we do.
this week?
Oh,
Kick us off, Deb.
the idea. Okay. The idea is, what's all the fuss about, right? What is it? Why is everybody, the people who are in it, are really excited about being in it? And the question is, why is that? What does it do for anybody? What does it do? And what it does is it allows us to have a conversation with ourselves, basically. It allows us to step away from ourselves and see what we're thinking. And it's also a place where we can read a book, take notes about that book, and know that we'll be able to see those notes 10 years from now. It'll be there. As opposed to a digital Zettelkasten, which may or may not be there because of all the electronic things that can happen. In addition to software obsolescence and all of that. So you can't depend on the software to cradle your babies. You know, you just can't. It's good. The software is good for searches. It's good for searches. Can't say it's not, but if it's not there, you can't search.
Well, I think where we began was trying to identify and share the utility of a Zettelkasten. And I think each of us share a common ground of how and why we love it and use it. But then we all have our own aspects of it that we either bring with us or that we've discovered along the way. So it's a common, simple tool, but it becomes a multi-tool in the hands of each user and how they diversify and customize it to whatever it is that they need. So we're all crazy, wide-eyed evangelists for the Zettelkasten, but we just want everyone else on board.
Right. I think I'm back. Okay. So I don't know where I was, but the idea is, yes, Victoria, you're right. That's one of the beauties of the Zettelkasten, the AZK, the analog Zettelkasten, because it's a reflection of your own mind. So of course it's customized to you. You know, it can hardly be anything else. It's about what you read, what you think, and it brings your own connections together so you can see it. It puts it out there in front of you so you can see it. And and if you maintain it properly, then your thoughts don't come to you. You say, oh, what a nice, and then it's gone. No, you get trained at being a part of this community. You get trained to jot it down, come up with a tagline, and put it with the other conversations that are going on in your Zettelkasten, because your main cards, the books you read, the thoughts you think, the conversations that you have, whatever you write down becomes a grist for the mill. And you have an opportunity to write this down, and then you pick out the conversations, the ideas, the concepts. Not talking about factoids. You pick out the ideas and the concepts, and you make a tagline. And those taglines are like going to a networking meeting, right? and you throw your tagline out there, and somebody else responds, as opposed to throwing a factoid out like, I'm 5'4". Okay. What do you do with that? That's a factoid. But if you throw something out there like, I'm 5'4". Yesterday I was 5'3". Today I'm 5'4". What do you think about that? That's gonna start a conversation. There's going to be some response, some give and take. And that's what it's like when you keep your Zettelkasten, your analog Zettelkasten, when you keep it up. It's a wonderful thing. When I was doing the research for this, and I came across the idea of children and teenagers, I'm talking about 5 to 18 years old. Five. But 5-year-olds think. 5-year-olds have questions. 5-year-olds, they don't have a huge vocabulary, but they know how to use it. And so if you teach them how to jot down their ideas, their thoughts, imagine what that would be like. You start from 5 years old, and you're about to step off into college. What do you have behind you?
Yeah.
What a treasure you have behind you. And then to use that on the college level, to take your notes. It's like giving a person the keys to the kingdom. Really. So that's what I'm about. If you can I put that list out there. It should be available to everybody, right? Is that correct? Not just us. Not just us, right?
Correct. At the end of the show, we'll tell you all how you can get a copy.
Okay, so I don't want to, this list has 50 items on it, and I don't want to just read it off. It's a reference. So who's next?
Well, I can go. Okay, so our question that Deb posed was, pretend like you have been asked by your employer or perhaps your community center, some entity or place, to write a description or some kind of piece about the Zettelkasten and its benefits. And then she added the challenge of doing it within a microfiction segment of like 50 to 100 words. So I took on the 50-word challenge. And for my piece, I wrote it kind of like an advertisement or a teaser, like maybe you would see in the sidebar, because she added an additional question, which is, what if you found that it was too confining and not enough space, and so therefore you expanded it to say a longer blog post? So what I wrote is that first step, if I'm only given, a 50-word column, maybe in a sidebar for a post, this is what I would post. So it goes: overwhelmed, disorganized, marooned in digital hell, you need a Zettelkasten. Imagine an analog note card system that brings order to your thoughts, structure to your day, and provides a calm presence for your thinking and planning. Simple tools for focus, governed by an alphabetized index. Register below to learn how.
Yeah,
50 words.
good. Yeah, yeah. And I can see it.
But the link that would be posted adds words, so I didn't add that.
I can so see that on somebody's some company's intranet or some, that's so easy to see.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's what I thought. I would stick that on I mean, it could be anything. It could be a book blurb, it could be your profile on social media. I mean, there's a jillion places you could put it just to get people to ask you the question of, tell me more about this.
Mm.
Well, I went the same route as Victoria for this shorter 50 to 100 word assignment. I also went the sort of advertising copy route. And Victoria, you say this is the thing to get people to ask you about Zettelkasten. Let me tell you a quick story here. I was at a book selling, a local for local authors to sell books, and I was trying to sell my book, and I had also set up my Zettelkasten and with a sign saying, "Ask me about Zettelkasten," thinking,
Awesome.
thinking that people would be like, "What on earth is that?" And they would ask. Nobody. The only person who even asked was a friend of mine, and she's like, "Well, tell me about it." And I'm like, "Well, I already have, but okay."
Wow.
So there needs to be more than that, I guess. So this idea of this sort of small amount of ad copy to lead into to get people to want to ask the question, because apparently the weirdness of the word and seeing it set up, not enough.
Not enough. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was
I can see
definitely
that.
it was some good learning anyway. So mine came out. I ended up being 67 words. Want to capture your best ideas and make insightful connections? Try a Zettelkasten. No more digging through old journals and scraps of paper. Your Zettelkasten will keep track of the books you read, link your ideas to the sources that sparked them, connect ideas to form a network, and help you find them again through the index. Your Zettelkasten becomes your partner in thinking and in writing.
Amen. Yeah,
Thanks.
good, good.
Okay, mine is I took the 100-word challenge and ended up at 125 words. Thank you, Mel, for leading the way and going over so I didn't have to feel like I blew it. So I'm going to share a picture of it. Come on. There we go. So here is my version. A Zettelkasten is a way of thinking. A Zettelkasten is a way of thinking that employs note cards to externalize thought processes and form associations. By being able to hold your thoughts in your hands, you expose faulty thought processes and expand your ability to explore out-of-the-box solutions to problems. Each of the elements of a Zettelkasten, from the bibliography cards where you take notes as you read, to your main cards where you capture key ideas and react to them, to your index where you find conversations that relate to your new ideas and leave breadcrumbs for future associations, your Zettelkasten exists to offload the limited capacity of the conscious mind while also tempting the subconscious mind to join the thrill of the hunt for new ideas.
Thrill of the hunt. Love that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So mine clocks in at 113 words. it would begin with a picture of my not easy.
Mhm.
And I'm envisioning this being something that I would post on the intranet at my job. So I'm assuming that people who would come across my post have a sense of me already, or it might get recommended by other people who have a sense of me. So seeing the picture of Not Easy, this is my brainstorm in a box. It contains the salient details of the ideas that have captivated my interest since I began keeping it. But wait, that sounds like a knowledge base. What elevates this as a brainstorm in a box is how quick and easy it is to use this box to discover profound connections between those super interesting ideas. In my experience, when two or more ideas are shown in their best light, connections between them cannot help but reveal themselves. All I have to do is follow a few simple steps to frame ideas in a highly digestible and rediscoverable way. On cards, written in my hand, in a box.
Yay.
Wow.
These are good. We should, I don't know what we need to do with these, but we need to do something with them.
I agree.
No, we don't do, or do we do? I don't do Facebook or, but it looks like some of these could be a post on Facebook, right? That
Right.
would
Yeah.
pull people in.
Mhm.
I mean,
Each of us, any of us who have Facebook, we could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could make a post to
Yeah.
the Zettelcast with that.
yeah, but I don't do Facebook.
Yeah, I don't do Facebook either.
Right.
I mostly lurk there, but I'm there.
Yeah, I'll
Same.
I
mention it in
think I
my
post on mine like twice a year.
I'll mention it in my YouTube podcast. Come watch us on Zettelcast and come watch the Zettelcast and tell them where they can find it.
Yeah.
We need a megaphone. A megaphone,
Billboards.
Yeah. But my thing is that piece is 900 and some odd words. But it's a 50 item listicle.
Yeah.
Right. So 50 items.
Uh-huh.
So I went for the rewrite. Okay.
That's allowed.
Yeah. But I was thinking that this piece could probably go out to the members that we have,
Uh-huh.
so that they can see the depth
Mm-hmm.
that the Zettelkasten can take them to, and maybe spread it out, particularly among the children, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
All the children who are in school, the younger the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, Kathleen, I was thinking about the book that you're writing with the little guy.
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's in middle school, right? Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, perfect age. I
Yeah.
mean, even 5 is perfect, but certainly middle school, what they call them, the tweens.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. I remember me in my tweens, and
Oh, I
particularly
would have loved this.
as a latchkey kid, I couldn't go outside
Yep.
anyway. I had to come home and do something. So,
Yep.
I mean, my mom had all these, she brought the encyclopedias and she brought, you know, the great books, and she had all these things there. But wouldn't it have been nice if I had also had a Zettelkasten?
Mom, can I have a box?
Seriously, rather than 48,000 notebooks, which is what I have. I mean, I was exactly the same kid that you were, Deb. So it would have been an amazing resource. Even if I would have discovered it, you know, for high school or college, it would have been amazing.
Yes, absolutely. I've literally read thousands of books, you know, literally.
Yeah, they were my friends. I was an only child at home by myself. What else was I going to do? Fortunately, I was a good kid, so I read books.
Mm, mm.
They were
Yeah.
my friends.
Well, I tried to not be a good kid. I tried. I tried a couple times to go outside, because especially when it was warm and I could hear the other kids playing outside. I wanted to go out there too. And I wasn't an only kid. I was the oldest. My sister is 23 months younger, right?
Mm.
It didn't matter. I mean, I tried to go outside, but we had these neighbors, you know.
Yeah.
God bless them.
Right?
They called my mom at work. Said, do you know? Oh boy.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh yeah.
and back then, of course, corporal punishment was the natural way to go. You know, everybody
Oh.
had a switch or a belt or, you know, something that they disciplined their children with. At least in my neck of the woods, they did. And
Ice water.
after nice water, wow.
Yikes.
After a while, I became discouraged and stayed in the house. You know,
Mm.
yeah. Which was,
Good choice.
yeah. I figured I had shed enough skin, you know. Enough. Right. But I dare say my life would have been very, very different had I had a Zettelkasten.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, because I would have, one of the things that happens is it lets you see yourself.
Mm.
And self-awareness is a very important thing. You know, I remember I have a younger sister, half sister. She said to me one day, "Oh no, I'm too young for that." And I thought, how does she know how young she is? You know,
Right.
what is she comparing that? I mean, how does she know how young she is? And I became envious instantaneously, because she knew, she was that aware of self and self's place in the world. And I was out there going, huh? You know? So Zettelkasten could have been, you know, my best friend in the corner. Me talking to me and able to see who I am. And maybe would have caused me to ask questions that would have been helpful, you know? And so some of the corners that I've turned, maybe I wouldn't have turned those corners. Who knows? But I'm saying that the Zettelkasten, no doubt, would have made a big difference. No doubt.
And you know that because it's already making it's making a big difference now.
Right, it is.
Yeah.
Because they could have my picture in the dictionary for introvert.
Right here.
Yeah, you know. So it's making
With that said, I'm going to go and have a call with my one friend. But carry on.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
Yeah. So
Well, Zettelkasten certainly changed the direction of my life. If without that, I doubt that I would have gotten very serious about the reading that I was doing. I was just at the transition point where I was kind of withdrawing from my 25-year work, and I was taking on fewer and fewer assignments and having more and more leisure time. If I didn't have that Zettelkasten to take up that slack and direct me into expanding my mind and what I was reading, I suppose I could have just fallen into what the other people in my age group were doing, which was, spending a lot of time in coffee clutches and, making fusses over things, expanding small tasks into half-day chores and just whittling away, my time. And not me.
Well, I can't even imagine you in that slot. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine you.
And tragedy averted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of all of the ideas that I've had over my life and didn't capture, or maybe wrote them down in some journal somewhere. If I had had a Zettelkasten that I was working with consistently from, young adulthood on, man, there'd be so many ideas in there, and I would have started writing so much sooner because there they would have been, captured rather than just flying off into the ether.
Remember the executive? Was it called the associate? It was called the associate. Whoopi Goldberg, and the associate. She was a broker, and then she got laid off or something or another, and but she had this box of ideas.
Mm.
This box of ideas. Now, her box of ideas was literally like an overgrown shoebox with lots of papers thrown in there. But as it turned out, there was a woman who was at the same firm where she was released, who happened to have been a very quiet but very efficient programmer. She was very friendly and very, very good at computers.
Mm-hmm.
And she took Whoopi's, she called it her future. Whoopi called that box her future. Because when she thought that the secretary, or actually her business person who became a business partner, threw it out, she said, "You threw away my future? What?" No, it's in here. Pointing to the computer. And she was able to get it. But this is even better, because now if a blackout comes, we still have access to our ideas. We still have access. We don't have to depend on technology at all. It's a wonderful thing. Plus, Mel, you were talking about your 21-year-old son. And that lovely file cabinet, file library, that thing is wonderful, beautiful. When it's time for you to transition, and you said your husband has it too, he has a Zettelkasten too, so your children will have a box like Victoria has the book. Your children will have your mind to access whenever they please. And I hope you're going to introduce them. You are, right? Introduce them to.
Well, yes, not entirely successfully, I must say.
Not yet.
The 20-year-old is sort of intrigued, but he is also like, you are in an index card cult. That's how he describes it. He's definitely all in on digital, unfortunately, but he may yet come around. The other two are unfortunately not interested in writing at all. They are interested in video games.
In video
Uh,
games.
Video games, yep. They are 13 and 15, or 14 and 15 at this point.
So they don't. I was thinking maybe they could record their hacks, their video game hacks and things. They can write it down and keep that in. You have to meet them wherever they are, right? So
Mhm. Yeah, it's a possibility. But they have shown very little interest, even though I'm doing it in front of them all the time. But you never know what gets in and what doesn't. Planting a seed, even if it takes a while to grow.
yeah, that's the important part. That's the important part, to plant the seed. Mhm.
Well, thinking about how would I expand my 13 words to what I would want to address in my audience is what Mel is talking about in his 20-year-old, the just thoroughly digital people.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where you have to take a leap of faith in the person who is saying that the analog way is the better way. And pointing to science, people who already firmly believe that digital is the way are going to say, yeah, to the science, because they are experiencing something gratifying in the digital realm. And as you said, Deb, I think in terms of searching, nothing beats it. But for me, this gets into the woo-woo. But I think that there is an aspect of using a Zettelkasten where there's a ritual of things that you do. And like any ritual that you perform, part of the benefit of the ritual is you become entrained to a certain framing of your mind. And even the ritual of lighting a candle, the steps that it takes to light a candle versus the steps that it takes to flip a light switch on are profoundly different. And the candle, if you will, that we're trying to light is the candle of our own minds. And to allow a computer system to find all these connections for you and just say, here's a connection for you, you'll tend to go, gee, thanks. As opposed to the connection that you discovered through your own brain. And the connection is really not just the connection, it's the smell in the room after you've lit the candle. It's the entire perfume of the ideas that when they combust together, it's not, you might be able to express the connection as just, well, this is like that. But it's really like, in what way is this like that? And to be able to experience that yourself, that is what the whole slow rhythm and all the steps of writing with your hand and taking the time to look through the cards to find where the connections are, taking the time to figure out how can I take this idea that I have found so captivating and boil it down to fewer than 100 words that can easily be found and bring it all back to life again. It's a wonderful discipline, and that's part of the ritual. And I think that I don't know whether this is going to make it an easier sell or not, but it is, I think, what happens. And what we're looking for is not something easy, it's something profound.
I think that's incredibly rich, Julianne. You're touching some very, very important depths there. I echo very firmly what you said. And if I had anything to contribute at all, it would just be to add a factoid. Heaven forbid. Which is, of course, when the computer gives you that association in front of your face, you're bringing it into the slots in your short-term memory. And once it's sitting there in your short-term memory, what's going to happen to it? If there is no emotion connected to it, if it doesn't directly relate to you, it's light. It's like a phone number that you're going to use and then go. It's just going to drift away from your mind. It's not going to impact you in any way, shape, or form. It's when you pull the association partly out of the physicality of the cards, and you see one of those ideas that reminds you of another, that whole cascade takes place in the entirety of your mind. And if you think your short-term memory is your brain, is the power of your mind, no. I mean, certainly more intelligent people have more slots in their short-term memory, bravo, but it's the depth of your mind that's where the power lies. And a computer can and will happily offload all of that for you, leaving you with a flat, shallow, very, very limited brain. And I think that's the tragedy of where we might be going with AI.
Yeah, it's like the old and much used saying of, it's the journey that counts, not the destination. When it comes to making the connections, it's the process you go through to connect the ideas that is so valuable. The connection itself is what you can communicate to other people, but getting to that communication, to that connection, is what develops your own brain, your own mind. So, you offload that to a computer. You can get a little sound bite that you can give to somebody else for whatever that's worth, but you've done basically nothing to your own mind.
There's no there's no dopamine. I mean, that's those the explosions that go on. Those are dopamine hits. And computers don't give those out, that's the place of the natural high. Okay. But you can get it through the Zettelkasten. You can get it. Wow. Okay. There was a second, an alternate question that I asked. First it was activity 1, and we just went through that, and the if you wanted to expand it for activity 2. But there was also an alternative for activity 2, which was whether or not you use your Zettelkasten for meal planning and recipe management. And this came to me out of the blue because, sad to say, I don't cook. Okay, do not cook. I can follow a recipe, but I don't cook. My aunts, every single one, I had 5 aunts, right? They all cooked. Scratch cornbread, scratch biscuits, rolls, chili to die for. I mean, it was just, I had all of these people around me, and at the time, it was like, I felt like I was being pushed to do woman's work. And being a child of the 60s, I said, no, I am woman, kind of thing. And I rebelled against what I perceived as woman's work, not recognizing that being the person who supplied the meals to the family, most important job in the world. Doesn't, I mean, it's like, okay, the guy goes out and he brings home the bacon, but if he doesn't know how to cook the bacon and the bacon spoils or whatever, then, you know, it's no good. But the one who's there rattling those pots and pans, right, is the one who's the home chemist, the home nutritionist, the person who makes sure that everybody stays healthy, you know. And I missed that. But if I had had a Zettelkasten, I might not have missed that, you know. I don't know. But I had all of these wonderful cooks around me, grew up with them. You know, I could have learned at their elbow easy. And they wanted to pass it on because that's how they learned from their mother. But anyway, so the question is whether or not anybody, either of you, used your Zettelkasten for food management or recipe management or food planning, meal planning. Do you? Oh, look. Okay, well, Kathleen, you're on.
This little box predates my Zettelkasten, so I can't really say that I use a Zettelkasten for it because it existed before I even had a Zettelkasten. But in a very real sense, this is a Zettelkasten. Of course, like a traditional recipe box, I've got the dividers based on what the recipes are for, but there's not a single recipe in my recipe box. Instead, my recipes include, they're all protected in plastic because around the kitchen things get messy. And so each one starts with a picture of the food item, the title of the food item, and what cookbook and what page number the recipe is on. Then when you flip over to the back side, you don't get the recipe either. I mean, it's in the cookbook. I'm all about, you can't spend time doing things that just are busy work. So what I have in the back are things that I need to buy in the produce aisle, things I need to buy from the bulk section, things I need to buy from the canned and packaged section, and then the all-important spices and staples that I probably don't need to buy, but I better make sure I've got on hand.
For that meal.
And every one of those recipes is like this. And I started this system when my kids were young, and I would just count out, I had sections at the time for, I'd just deal out 2 chicken meals, 2 beef meals, 2 fish meals, and a fast food, homemade fast food. And that's a week. And then you just flip those over. Working full time and raising a family, I could just make my grocery list out of that in a wink, or just carry a group of 7 cards with me to the grocery store, plus my standard list that I had of things you always have to buy every week.
You were ZK primed.
And it still houses all of our favorite recipes, even though we're now vegan vegetarians.
Wonderful. Wonderful. ZK Prime, you were, no wonder you got into Scott's stuff so easily. Your head was already there, you know. Wow. So what about Julianne? I can see this look on your face.
I have I don't. I could see how I could. So I went through a period in the 90s where doing lots of cooking, and I did we got to a period where my husband and I were just not going to have the conversation that begins, what do you want for dinner tonight? I don't know. What do you want? We decided we were bored with that conversation. And we're both pretty good at reading recipes and imagining what they would taste like, which helps. You need to be able to kind of, I don't know what's the word for it. If you're reading music and you imagine what it sounds like, it's called audiation. I don't know what it's called when you're reading a recipe and you're imagining what it tastes like, but salivation. But But anyway, and my mother had always been compiling the family cookbook. Um, and she got a Commodore 64, and that was her first project back in the days when that was a thing. And still have that cookbook, and then her modified one that she did in Microsoft Word, and I helped her figure out how to do a table of contents and make it all fancy. And I made such a cookbook myself of our favorite recipes, and it was because there were too many. Your mechanism, Kathleen, is a quicker way to get to it. It's a quicker way to get to that. But I was just really thinking about a document, and so I still refer to that sort of thing. But what's missing from everything that I did, and I actually started to try to do this digitally, and it was too annoying, and I stopped it, is trying to figure out the connections between all of these things. It's not, generally recipes go in categories.
Yeah.
Main dishes, salads, desserts, blah, blah, blah. And what do you have that can use ground ginger?
Uh-huh.
That is that I wasn't able to answer that question really very easily, and that it feels like it would have been good, but then again, that's not how I cook. I don't go, some people do that. They'll open the refrigerator, which is full of delicious stuff that they have just shopped because they have this intuitive way of shopping, and then they figure out what are they going to make from it. Not me. I go with the recipes. But anyway, so I definitely have had the inclination to organize my cooking life and my eating life, but I haven't used the Zettelkasten for it. I can see the benefit of it though.
Yeah, suppose you had an index of ingredients, then you would be able to answer your question.
Yeah.
Well, I used to group mine by clumps because my family was never fond of leftovers. So I always had to make planned overs. And so for me, if I had
Landowners.
if I had a recipe that took this Asian cabbage salad that was a key side dish for a certain recipe, then later in the week, I would make a hoagie sandwich where it would be the topping on the hoagie sandwich to use up the rest of the Asian salad mix because they would never eat it if I put it in a bowl and put it on the table with a spoon on it for a second time.
Wow.
So in that sense, but then
Picky.
I knew the clusters went together. And my mother taught me that from the early days. If you buy a roast, then you can cut off the best piece of it and serve it as steak. Then you do the roast, and then of course you have the stew that comes with the leftovers afterwards, and then you boil the bone, and so things went through a progression.
I can see that in my mind, that whole that whole evolution of using and I'm sure that my aunts did all of those things, but they are gone, and so are those hacks, those kitchen hacks that they would have passed down to me had I been wise enough to open my ears and mind. But anyway, hey. What about you, Mel? Anything?
Well, no, not currently, although I'm very inspired by Kathleen's box, and I may do something similar. Um, Most of my recipes that I are on cards, but in a book that you can slide them into the slots in the book. It's a recipe book. And actually, some of them are not ones that I use because this book came from my mom. So she put in all the ones that she used. And it's just turned out that I don't use most of those because different tastes. But I've added a bunch of my own to that. But the idea of having, the picture and the ingredients that you could just flip through, that's pretty cool. So I think I might try that. My husband does keep track of some of this stuff, but I don't know the details. If he were a guest on this show, he could talk about it, but maybe another time. But because he started his Zettelkasten in his mother's 3x5 recipe card box. There was enough space in it, so he just started putting his cards in there. And not too long ago, he actually was running out of space, so he took all the recipes out and put them in the big library catalog. But I know he also tracks his eating and his meals in there, but I don't know his system, and I'm not sure he has a system yet, or if it's just sort of kind of random still. So that'd be an interesting thing to discuss with him, I guess.
And the beat goes on. Wonderful. Wonderful. Wow. See, all the things we because in the course of thinking about that question, that activity, it occurred to me, yes, I don't cook. But I was talking and working with a consultant for a while about my diet because things are happening to me. And we decided that raw was the way to go for a number of reasons. And thinking about that now, and thinking about Kathleen, your method, I mean, that can work for a raw diet as well. Perfect. So thank you for that. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Okay.
I do have a funny story to share though. We
Yeah.
recently remodeled our pantry and reorganized it and got all of the cookbooks up onto a shelf there. And I overheard my two teenage boys, 14 and 15, going in there the first time. And the older one said, "There's a new shelf here and it's full of books for some reason." Sure, some of them are cookbooks, but all of them? And then I hear the other one, the younger one saying, "Well, that one's a cookbook. That one's a cookbook. Yeah, they're all cookbooks." And then there's silence for a little while. And then the older one bursts out, 43? Who needs 43 cookbooks? So yeah, we yes. And he's
Thanks to Julianne, I even have one I've never cooked from. Not even in my kitchen.
but all that to say, yes, I've got plenty of source material if I did do any sort of Zettelkastening from the cookbooks.
43. I remember one of the and I wish I knew where that book is now, but when I got married at the tender age of 17, one of the presents that I got was this book called The Joy of Cooking. Right.
Yeah.
Classic. Everybody apparently gets that book, The Joy of Cooking. And I thought, well, this is not for me. The joy of cooking. What? I was so anti-kitchen, but anyway, good. You live and you learn, right? Hopefully, yeah. All right, so that's about all I have for this session, and we're at the top of the hour, actually.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else? Oh, Kathleen, do your thing.
Oh, yes. Okay, if you visit lilypub.org, on our website, you'll find a link to where you can sign up to be a part of the Roanoke Project. And at that link, we will also include in our Roanoke area a link to all of the contributions that each of us made towards how to publicize a Zettelkasten and how to spread its good word. And furthermore, if you choose to join us at lilypub.org, and membership is not very expensive. If you can afford a premium coffee every now and again, you can afford LilyPub. And then if you come over to the Roanoke Project, you can post your own words about how you would promote a Zettelkasten if it were up to you. And we'd love to hear your ideas as well. We love to talk about these things. So come on over to lilypub.org. And you'll also find a circle for Zettelkasten over there where we talk about all things Zettelkasten. So please come join us.
Thank you.
Mm. Yes.
Well, Deb, your mission is to figure out what do you want to call this episode to aid in its discovery through the YouTube algorithm. And I'll be the host for the next week because it's my turn upcoming.
Okay. I'll think of something. I
Yeah.
should have been thinking about that all along because I knew you were going to ask that question. Yes. I'll think of something, get it to you post haste. Okay. All right.
Well, then I'll stop this one and start the next.